Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Behold Behemoth. Issue number 1 from Boom Studios. This is written by Tate Bromball with artwork by Nick Robles and lettering by And World Design. I thought this book was exceptionally well done. A perfectly crafted issue number 1. It's about this dude who was in foster care as a kid, but he had a big brother that was looking out for him. Now as an adult, he's dealing with the ramifications of the abuse that he dealt with in foster care, and he just recently lost his brother. Now, on his most recent case for work, he may have stumbled upon something that's going to lead to the apocalypse. Or save the apocalypse. There's a lot more to it than that, but I don't want to spoil what goes on in these pages. The story is compelling. The artwork is absolutely fantastic. It has some nice themes. It packs some emotional punch. And the way it all kind of ties this mystery together, they got two kind of stories going on. One post-fall, one pre-fall. And the fall is the fall of the world, the fall of civilization. The way they come together by the end of this book was absolutely amazing. There are some powerful moments as far as the art goes, too. Some really cool, gnarly stuff. I love the coloring, I love the layouts, I love the composition. It is working together to tell an emotional, character-driven story that seems to be leading into a high concept, and the way that that's tying it into the subtext, I think is absolutely fabulous. I think this book is fantastic. Behold Behemoth from Boom Studios. The pick of the week. Let's jump over to Marvel, where we've got Deadpool number 1, a new Deadpool. It's been a while since we've had a proper ongoing Deadpool book, and this one was written by Alyssa Wong. So I haven't really responded well to stuff I've read from Alyssa Wong, so I wasn't really that excited. Plus, I'm not necessarily the biggest Deadpool fan. That being said, I rather liked this issue. I thought it was fine. There is a character, the Harrower, or whatever, kind of like a Marvel version of Poison Ivy. I think somewhere from the X-Men universe nowadays. It does have some ties to Krakoa and the Krakoan era, but it's firmly established as its own thing, which is a silly yet fun and slightly irreverent Deadpool comic. In this one, this chick wants to grow a symbiote, and she needs an incubator. She decides, why not Deadpool? So Deadpool is basically pregnant with a Carnage baby. That sounds so silly, and it is silly, but there's another bit here where Deadpool's like on a timeline to have to take down Doc Ock for a group of villains. There was a lot of craziness in this issue that I had a lot of fun with, I really did. The artwork is... I'm astonished, too, that I like this book so much. I mean, Martin Coccolo on the artwork, I think it's pretty solid. There's some interesting stuff going on. It's silly. If you don't like Deadpool, talking at you, breaking the fourth wall, super silly comic book stories, if you don't like that stuff, obviously Deadpool's not for you. Deadpool's not necessarily for me, but I had fun with this. I thought it was pretty decent. So there you go. Then we got Tiger Division number 1. This is like some Korean and other Asian superheroes in a superhero team. Marvel's been making a good big push on some of these characters, but they haven't really gotten a book to really work yet. So I think Tiger Division is their next try to do that. And it was all right. It didn't do anything exceptional. It read as a decent enough, mediocre, average superhero team book. It could be any superhero team book from like Valiant or Malibu from the 90s, right? It just kind of had that flavor, had that vibe, didn't really do anything exceptional with the story, with the characters, or with the artwork, so it was just kind of forgettable for me, so I guess it was all right. Then we got Secret Invasion issue number 1. This is a new miniseries written by Ryan North, who is going to be the new writer on Fantastic Four, so I was paying attention to this one. But what this is just basically to have another book on the shelf right now called Secret Invasion, because there's a Secret Invasion show coming on. So it's really focusing in on Maria Hill, really focusing in on Nick Fury, and the threat of Skrulls infiltrating the Marvel Universe yet again. It feels like a retread. We've seen this story tons of times, including the big epic event, Secret Invasion. This one's a little bit more low-key, a little bit more spy-oriented, and I think that's what they're going for with the new series. So this is just something to put out a branded book for an upcoming show and kind of work it together so it's kind of similar. It was all right. It was decent. I think it pulls some stuff from the recent Meet the Skrulls book, but I can't be 100% on that one because I kind of don't remember the names of those characters. But Secret Invasion #1, it was all right. It was all right. Then we got Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. This is a one-shot Guardians of the Galaxy comic. Now, we do have a new ongoing Guardians of the Galaxy approaching at some point like in spring of 2023. This one's written by Kevin Shinick with artwork by Gerardo Sandoval, and it's all right. It's decent enough, I guess. They really use the personalities of the movie versions of these characters even more so, and I know that there's going to be some shifting and morphing, right, of the more familiar nowadays movie versions of these characters and the comic book ones, right? But sometimes, especially when it comes to Drax, it just makes me roll my eyes. But it's basically two books that are taking advantage of properties that need to be taken advantage of, I guess. I don't know. But Guardians of the Galaxy, that one shot, it was all right. If you're the most hardcore Guardians fan, check it out. But otherwise, it's kind of forgettable. Then we got Punisher with issue number 7. Punisher is getting better. I already loved this book when it was starting, and I was really nervous, trepidatious even, that this book was going to kind of lose some of its luster, but it's only continued to strengthen. The more preposterous this story has gotten, the more deep, nuanced, and actually the right story for Frank Castle. We're illuminating things about his past, things that we've had illuminated or brought to our attention before, but Jason Aaron's really getting into the character, and I think he's doing it in a non-judgmental way. And we're also getting more development on Maria, the Punisher's wife, because if you didn't know, she's back. She's back from the dead. Her name is Maria, right? It doesn't matter. But why'd you say that name? Is it Martha? Wouldn't that be messed up? Anyway, maybe it is Martha. I think it's Maria. Man, now I'm curious. Somebody will let me know in the comments. Anyway, so more character work has been done with her in this single issue than 40 years of Marvel history, and granted, it's because she's been... Anyway, she's back, and the Hand brought her back. That's one of the reasons why Frank Castle's now, like, the main big daddy of the Hand and the Beast, and it's amping up, right? So you got the backstory stuff that's being built up about the character of Frank Castle. Then you got the modern day story where he's being confronted by Daredevil, so you get some nice Daredevil versus Punisher action here. Both of them at crazy points in their respective journeys throughout the Marvel Universe. Man, I hate it that I always try to say Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's the Marvel Universe. It's the real Marvel Universe. Anyway, I really like Punisher. Thought it was great. Really awesome. Kudos to the entire team. Hulk, number 10. This one was rather talky and not quite as explosive as I want this book to be. It's not a book that I think is good. I think kind of the basic premise of this book, which is Bruce Banner taking over the Hulk's body as if it's a spaceship and he's operating it inside and sending him out in the multiverse. I think the basic concept of this book is dumb, right? But I do have fun with it because it does kind of have this action-packed, explosive nature. And there are moments where that comes through in here, even with the Ryan Ottley artwork, though. It just doesn't pop for me. There's something missing. It's not as exciting. I don't know. It was all right. I think there's some new characters in it, so if that's your bag, there you go. But Hulk has not won me over at all, but it is losing some of its fun nature in these last couple of issues. So Hulk number 10 was meh. Then we got Savage Avengers, issue number 7, going into the year 2099. You know, if you really think about it, a lot happens in the year 2099 in the Marvel Universe. Because you got to think of all those comic books from 2099, 2020, 2099... 2099, all those comic books from the 90s, all the stuff they've done since then, all the times they've gone back to it. Maybe they shifted and changed things, but all of it has to happen in that one year, right? There's not been a Marvel 3000. Maybe that's the next step. Maybe that's what we need next. Marvel 3000. Anyway, that being said, the Savage Avengers are in 2099 trying to find their way back with the help of Deathlock, who in this timeline, Deathlock is a version of Miles Morales in the future. This whole timeline right now is being run by machines like it's the Terminator, Judgment Day, right? And Ultron's their leader, and it's up to Jack Gallows, the Punisher of 2099, to help them defeat the Ultron army and find a way back through time. I'm having a lot of fun with this series. I think writer David Pepose is having a lot of fun with this series. So there you go. From DC, we got Batman and the Joker Deadly Duo, issue number 1. This is by Mark Silvestri. It's $4.99, but it is beautiful, y'all. It is gorgeous. Mark Silvestri only has to do a comic to prove that he can. And he is killing it. His line work, his inking, because he's inking this too. He's also writing it, and the story's decent enough. Basically, Harley Quinn's been kidnapped, so Joker, in order to enlist Batman's help in helping him find Harley Quinn, kidnaps Gordon and uses that as a tool. The story's fine, but the big draw is this artwork. If you are a fan of Mark Silvestri, holy cow, you will want this book. It is absolutely amazing. It's printed on good paper. The colors work. It's like some of the best Mark Silvestri stuff I've seen. You can tell he's taking his time. And once again, Mark Silvestri's making a bold statement saying, out of all the Image founders, I think I might be the best on a technical skill. This is really good stuff. I liked it. Then we got Batman 129, the next chapter of this fail-safe story. I'm loving what writer Chip Zdarsky and artist Jorge Jimenez are doing with this book. The whole idea of failsafe. Basically, Batman's subconscious has created a failsafe program in case Batman ever goes rogue, right? So Batman didn't even know that this existed. It was his subconscious Batman that did it, the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. Some really cool stuff there. And the backup story's kind of diving into the psychology of Zur-En-Arrh. I really, really like that. But it's failsafe. This is basically this Batman robot that's more badass than Batman has taken out the entire Bat family. This is awesome. And it has one of those endings where you're like, there ain't no way they can write themselves out of that. But they've already released the preview for the next issue, and I've already read the next issue, and they get themselves out of it. But this book's been cool. Dynamic, kinetic, explosive. Good solid Batman book. Then we got The Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing, issue number 2. A new Joker series, $5.99, cardstock cover. Hard to recommend this book based on that price, based on the package and the delivery system. That being said, I am liking this book. It's written by Matthew Rosenberg, artwork by Carmine Di Gian Domenico, and I really like the artwork. It's got this flair, it's got this dreary type style. Basically, someone is out there impersonating the Joker. Or someone thinks they're the Joker and they think the real Joker's impersonating them. Anyway, there's multiple Jokers in here, and I really like this book. I thought it was pretty cool. It's telling a decent story. There's a backup story in here by Francisco Francavilla, which was just ridiculous and fun and smelled of Silver Age goofiness, and I liked that. So 2 issues in, I'm digging it. That price point, though, that's going to be hard for a lot of people to swallow, especially after kind of the falling flat ending that I think the Tynan run had. Then we got Sword of Azrael, issue number 4. Dan Watters is writing the best iteration of Jean-Paul Valley I've ever read, and I've read them all. I said that, and I mean that. I still do. This gets deep into the character's psychology. It gets deep into the character's faith. It gets deep into the idea that this is a man of faith who people have used that faith to program him into something that he doesn't want to be. And you find out more about the system. You find out more about these other agents that may be out there, including the first one. I love this book. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. The artwork really is selling me. It's getting me more and more engaged as the issues go because it just has an energetic flair to it, and it's just absolutely when it needs to. But in those calm moments, the coloring helps that too. In those explosive moments, man, this is a really solid book. Like I said, this is the best iteration of Azrael I've ever read. It's by Dan Watters, and I've read them all. So there you go. Gotham City, Year 1, Number 2 by Tom King and Phil Hester. I was rather surprised by the first issue of this. It's basically a kidnapping mystery. It seems like, I think it might be Bruce's grandmother or great-grandmother is kidnapped, and Slam Bradley, who we know as one of those very early detective comics characters from way back in the day, he was kind of revitalized, I guess, I almost said a few years, but I guess like 20 years ago by Ed Brubaker and Darwin Cook and their Catwoman work, which I loved. So it's cool to see that character again. I like the book. In issue number 2, it kind of gets a little bit stunted. It just kind of stagnates just a little bit. Maybe doesn't have the pace that's quick enough, but The things that happen are cool. I just think that it gets bogged down sometimes by the words. Once again, Tom King he has a panel where you clearly see what's happening, and then the narration, it goes, I walked up the stairs. I get that. Like, that's wasted wordage. Like, come on, you're not getting paid per letter. Or are you, Tom King? Anyway, Gotham City, Year 1, Number 2, a step down from the first one, but still very interesting, and I love how he's utilizing the character of Slam Bradley. A new Champion of Shazam, issue number 3. Feels like it's been a while since issue number 2. I've liked this series. Shazam is doing Shazam things. I guess he's not Shazam anymore. I didn't really keep up with Teen Titans Academy. I did read that last Shazam book. I don't even remember how it ended. The one where he went to hell or whatnot. Anyway, so Mary Marvel is the new Shazam, right? So this is about her trying to carve out a new life, but her foster parents are kidnapped, so she has to go back home. And she also now has the extra burden of being Shazam. She is the new Shazam in this book. The world is finding out about her. This one gets a bit slow in like the first half or even like middle part of this book, but then it kind of ramps up. So it doesn't quite have the energy of the previous 2 issues, but it is still very solid, and the artwork by Doc Shaner is top-notch. Then we got Poison Ivy, issue number 6. This is the final issue of this arc. This has been elevated to an ongoing series, so we will have more. And it was a decent enough ending. I thought it was fine. Kind of her final confrontation with the Floronic Man, Jason Woodrue. I like this as a turning point for Poison Ivy. This book, I felt... the biggest problem with this book was that it was trying to tread this very fine line of wanting Poison Ivy to be an irredeemable villain, but also like a compelling and engaging anti-hero of a sorts. By the end of this, I think they nailed that line, that fine line. I think they know where they want to go with this character now. I'm on board for it. But I'll tell you what, one thing I've learned in this series, and it's had artwork by Marcio Takara, and it's been fine. But Brian Level has been doing some work in these last few issues. This Brian Level stuff is awesome. And in fact, make Brian Level the Poison Ivy artist for the next arc. That's what I would do. And if you're not going to do that, put him on a Swamp Thing book. Absolutely fantastic artwork there. Thought it was great. Then we've got Dark Knights of Steel, issue number 8. Tom Taylor delivering a clean, clear, concise, high fantasy version of the DC Universe where all these different manipulations and manipulators are going on. It's kind of like Game of Thrones with the DC Universe. You can say it's like that in a way, and you kind of get where I'm going, but it's obviously not Game of Thrones, but it does have a lot of backstabbing, a lot of conniving, and a lot of action. And I really like this book. And Tom Taylor's really good at taking the essence of these characters, putting them in a different setting, but still making it work. And he's not held down by any continuity restrictions, so he's able to like do things that you didn't think he would do. And once again, a Dark Knights of Steel that has a last page where I'm just like, what? Give me the next one now. Let's jump over to Image. And from Image Comics, we have Hell to Pay #1, a brand new comic from Charles Soule, who just recently has been tearing it up with 8 Billion Genies. So expect some movement on Hell to Pay. He's a name now that people in Hollywood are going to start recognizing. But Charles Soule, with artwork by Will Sleaney, coloring by Rochelle Rosenberg, Chris Crank on the lettering. I liked this book. I thought it was pretty cool. It's got a really cool premise. Basically, in Hell, there is a monetary system, and you can call it Hell Coin, right? And whenever Hell Coin kind of makes its way to Earth, and say a human gets a piece of Hell Coin, they can use it to conjure a demon, and every time this happens, it really wrecks the course of history, right? It just messes things up because it's not good, right? So there are these two lovers whose mission is to go about and find every piece of Hell Coin and eradicate it from the earth. So I like the portrayal of Hell. Some of the demons, they look like symbiote-esque almost. Symbiote, did I say, yeah, Cenobite-esque. Symbiote? Anyway, Cenobite-esque almost the way in the design. I really liked the book. I thought it was cool. It took turns and did things that I wasn't expecting. So yeah, I liked Hell to Pay. I'm interested to see where we go. Then we got Little Monsters returning with issue number 7, kicking off the second arc of this Kids as Vampire Tales. This is a book about a group of kids, and they've been left alone for a long time, and they've been told just to stay there, and they don't even know that they're allowed to feed on humans or not. They don't even realize that, right? In the course of the first arc, some of the kids find a human, kill the human, drink the human's blood, and realize, oh, this is great. Wow. So now you've got one half of the kids trying to protect a human, and the other half are going about trying to find the human and also fight with their friends. So good conflict there. A little bit like Lord of the Flies meets vampires, meets maybe just a little bit. There's a little bit of both of those. I mean, there's a lot of vampires in here, honestly. The artwork by Dustin Nguyen is absolutely fantastic. He's doing this like digital duo shade type thing, but I really think that works and enhances the atmosphere of this book. I like it. Lots of great characterization from Jeff Lemire. It's a solid book. Then we got Old Dog, issue number 2 from Declan Shalvey and Clayton Cowles on the lettering. And I guess I think, yep, Shalvey's doing the coloring himself. That's awesome. I wasn't that impressed with the first issue of this, but I was very impressed with the second issue. Old Dog is about this dude who was an agent. On his last mission, he wound up in a coma for 8 years now. He's awoken. It's a new world, new technology, and now he's teamed up with his estranged daughter to go on these missions, and maybe he doesn't quite trust the agency or his daughter. So in this one, he has another mission. Each issue so far is being done kind of like a one-and-done story, self-contained, but part of the larger narrative. You know, I'm a sucker for stuff like that. I'm also a sucker for Declan Shalvey's artwork. I think it's phenomenal. I really like this one. Excuse me. So I thought Old Dog number 2 was an improvement over issue number 1. Then we've got Bloodstained Teeth, issue number 6. This has a guest artist, Mark Chatter, but it still has Heather Moore's coloring, which means it still has the flow and the tone and the crazy circus atmosphere of this book. Another vampire book, lots of those on the shelves right now, but I really like this book. I think it's cool. It's about a world in which only purebloods are allowed to exist. So it's kind of not cool to the High Council or whatnot if you turn humans into vampires. I think they call them sips or something like that. So this one dude is being tasked with having to go and find all of the people that he's turned for money because he was a vampire for profit, vampire for hire, right? But we kind of back away from that to tell somebody else's story and how that's going to tie in to the main story. And this was a really cool story. This is how you step aside from the main narrative, build something new, and attach it to the main narrative and get me excited about it. This was a really solid issue. Then we got King Spawn, issue number 16. I'm loving it. First of all, you got Javi Fernandez back solidly on the artwork. It's got a grit. It's got a texture. I love it. There's been so much stuff going on in all of the Spawn books. King Spawn 16, Sean Lewis does a great job of kind of tying all of this stuff together, reaching a certain point, and now everything is clear, feels more concise, and we're ready to go into the next phase. King Spawn's been fun, even if you haven't picked up a Spawn book in 25, 30 years. Even if you've only read Spawn for that first year, you can jump in with King Spawn. You'll not miss a beat. That stuff's pretty fun. From Dark Horse Comics, we have The Ones, issue number 1. This is Brian Michael Bendis and Jacob Edgar. It's an interesting concept. So you know all those stories where somebody comes up to someone, they're like, you're the chosen one. You're going to save humanity from this threat, right? Like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer or a Neo from the Matrix. You know, that kind of thing. Well, what if on one world there were a bunch of these different chosen ones that were chosen to provide protection against a certain threat? But in reality, they are actually called together in this book as a team of chosen ones to fight the actual chosen one, the son of Satan, the Antichrist. This book has that Bendis bounce to it that gets annoying for some people, and I think over the last few years it's gotten more and more overwrought because it's become a crutch for Bendis to kind of lean on when he needs to. So even in here, even though I think it's better than some of the Bendis stuff of recent years, it still is a little bit of a crutch he leans into. The artwork was a bit cartoony, but I don't know if I minded that for this story, for its vibrancy. I'm intrigued by this one. I'm not completely sold on it yet, but it's a dumb enough concept that I think the Bendis vibrancy and buoyancy could really work for it. Also from Dark Horse, we have Quick Stops, issue number 1, written by Kevin Smith with artwork by Jeremy Simsner. This is basically going to be an anthology of tales from the View Askewniverse. So all those characters from Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jason, all of that. You know, you get it, right? There was a point in my life where I was so plugged into the View Askewniverse, I just ate every single bit of it up. you could imagine me having charts in my writing on whiteboards with strings and articles clipping together who was connected to who. Like, I was really into that stuff, right? But not so much nowadays. So I wasn't really expecting much out of this, but I really did rather like this. This is basically Holden McNeil being interviewed by Alyssa Jones, and he tells the story of how he created Bluntman and Chronic and how he was inspired by Jay and Silent Bob. It was cool. It scratched that nostalgic itch, but maybe too much at certain times because you have repeated bits and repeated lines from previous movies, and I know that's kind of the thing, but it just... there was a moment where it fell flat, but overall, I thought it was pretty decent. So quick stops, if you're a big Kevin Smith fan, especially of those movies from back in the day, you might want to check that out. Also from Dark Horse, we have Night of the Ghoul, issue number 2. I did like this way more than issue number 1. First of all, it's got art by Francisco Francavilla, one of my absolute favorite artists, and the artwork is amazing. The coloring choices that he has are absolutely phenomenal. I think it's good. It's a book about a lost film called Night of the Ghoul. And this dude's been trying to track it down, and he's found it all except for one bit, so he goes to find the creator of this movie, who's this old, decrepit, crypt keeper looking dude in this, like, nursing home, and he goes there to try to find out where this lost film is. Turns out there's a lot more to it. The lost film is actually telling the truth of the real monster called the Ghoul, and he's there. In fact, he's right behind you. He's over there. This was cool. There are some moments where it gets way so exposition-y and overly verbosely so. So overly verbosely exposition-y at times, which kind of stunts it just a little bit. But then it kind of picks up that movement, especially when the coloring choices start going to more of a purple thing. Oh, I shouldn't show you that one. I shan't show you that money shot. But then it starts going to these. I really like the color choices. I thought that was really cool. From Opus Comics, we have Bill and Ted Presents Death. This is a Death one-shot, $6.66. See what you did there, and I like it. This was awesome. It's written by Eric Burnham with artwork by Federica Manfredini and a bunch of different assistants listed here. This was great. This is basically post-Bogus Journey. Death is trying to write this badass bass solo, and he needs some inspiration, so he winds up going back in time to ask Beethoven for information, right, to help teach him. But he goes at the time of Beethoven's death, so then he gets confronted by him in the past trying to kill Beethoven, and it becomes this crazy adventure. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm a big Bill and Ted fan for sure, but this was really solid. The Bill and Ted comics have always been interesting to me, but the Opus comics have been really solid, and I thought this was the best one they had done yet. This had the voice of the character down and the uproariously dumb fun, the gigantic moronic splendor of the franchise. So, Station, 100%. Plus, you got Station in there. Cherish, number 1 from Dynamite Comics. Now, this one is edited and packaged by our friend Joe Corallo, so I had to check this one out. Written by Katana Collins, artwork by Gabrielle Caetano. I liked this book. So, Cherish... her father was killed, murdered by this evil corporation possibly 20 years ago. So now she's a vigilante. She's got some technology developed by her father that allows her to, like, do cool things, like make this, like, badass glider that just show up. So she's after this stuff, right? So her father was killed when she was younger, and now her and her partner are out there trying to bring vengeance, right? And I really liked the book. I thought it was cool. I think a lot of people might like this book. A cool character, cool design, and a really exciting first issue. So Joe and company, well done. Then we got Vampirella versus Red Sonja, issue number 1. I was excited to check this out. I was like, hell yeah. This is tied to the Project Superpowers stuff that they were doing. There's a version of Vampirella, like Dark Powers, and then like Red Sonja, the superpowers. It's spinning out of all of that, so I felt very lost, and it wasn't a good, clean entry point into just a Vampirella versus Red Sonja book. I mean, it is building up to that, but it's using this Project Superpower stuff that I'm just not that into or understand that much, so I did feel a little bit lost. Then we've got Sweetie, Candy Vigilante, issue number 2. I had a lot of fun with issue number 1. I had just as much fun as issue number 2. So Candy, or my bad, Sweetie, is the Candyman's daughter. And when I say the Candyman, not, you know, the Candyman with the bees and the hook I'm talking about, who can make the rainbow sprinkle it? That, the song, the Candyman can. It's his daughter. She's trying to find out who's naughty and nice, and anybody that's not good, she kills with like evil, like pixie dust or something, like candy and stuff. And I don't know. This book's stupid. This book's big, dumb fun, gigantic moronic splendor. But I have a lot of fun with it. There's a werewolf in this one. There's some nice body mutilations, some cool stuff. It's a book that's not taking itself too seriously, and it knows what it's trying to do, and it embraces it. And I really embrace it for that. End after end, issue number 3. This series is starting to solidify for me. It's about a dude, and basically some people, when they die, they go to this like fantasy world where they're enlisted in this army, and they just have to fight this never-ending battle. Right? But there is a chosen one. Maybe he'll show up in the ones, right? But there is a chosen one. Maybe it's our main character. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's all a lie. There is no chosen one. What is the point of war? What is the point of endless fighting? What is the point of destiny? These are questions being explored and examined in the pages of End After End. And I think over the last couple issues, I've kind of missed some of that nuance, just focusing too much on the story, because it seemed simple enough. You die, you show up in this world, you got to fight. You got to keep fighting. Okay, well, what more is there? Well, it's that subtext. That's what's more there. And it starts being elaborated a little bit more, I think, in issue number 3. This one really hooked me in. So I thought this was cool. It's written by David Andre and Tim Daniel. Sanando on the artwork, and a round-out team, Campbell and Russell. I really like that book. I think it's solid. Hard Eyes, issue number 3. This is a book I've been really liking. Issue number 3, though, I got a little lost. I forgot where we were. There was a major turn of events in the last issue, and now we're doing this, and I'm like, wait, is this before? Is it after? I felt misplaced, like I didn't know where I was. I don't think that's the fault of the book. I think it's my fault. I read so many comics, watch so many movies, try to retain everything. Sometimes things slip through the cracks. But that being said, I feel if I read issue 1 and 2 again, and then read 3, it would be a lot better. I love that reference to Dr. Strangelove right there. But Hard Eyes, number 3, great artwork. A solid story. The story was good. I just couldn't place where we were in the narrative. I just was a little lost, but I think that's on me. The Purple Oblivion is a new one from Sumerian Comics, formerly Behemoth. This one was pretty gnarly, pretty cool. It's hard to really tell what it's about. It looks like these people are trying to develop a drug based on these slug entities or something, and I don't know, it like makes people's heads explode. So it starts with a really cool like scanners kind of moment. And I really liked the artwork. I really liked the coloring. I liked what was going on. I liked the vibe of the series, but it went really fast. And by the end of it, I didn't quite know what the point is of the book, but the package, that's a good smelling comic too. The package really makes me work. Or really works for me. So I liked it. Then we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Saturday Morning Adventures, issue number 2. This is Eric Burnham, I believe. Yeah, Eric Burnham, who wrote that awesome Death series, or one-shot. Tim Laddie, this is straight up 80s, early 90s animated Turtles adventures. That's what this is. It has that vibe. It has that feel. If you liked the G.I. Joe Saturday Morning Adventures, this is the same thing, but for Turtles. But basically, if you were a fan of the TMNT Adventures Archie series, or the cartoon series from the 80s and the 90s, like a lot of people my age were, you're going to like this book. I had a lot of fun with it. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. I do want to point out that Incredible Strange Fiction, or my bad, Incredible Science Fiction, Volume 1 is out from Dark Horse. This is part of their EC archives. They're doing them now in these very affordable paperback editions. This collects the very last bits of weird science fantasy, and then it merges into incredible science fiction. You're going to have work in here from Wally Wood, Frank Frazetta, Jack Kamen for sure, Joe Orlando, Bernie Krigstein, Jack Davis, like all of Bernie Wrightson, all of some of the best artists of all time. You will see some of their work here, and this is some really solid stuff. So I've been digging these. If you like Tales from the Crypt, Haunt of Fear, Weird Science, this is one not to miss out on for sure. And once again, I mentioned this last week, and pointed out again this week, the complete 8-ball, issues 1 through 18, available in paperback from Fantagraphics. This beautiful collection is only $50. It collects the first 18 issues of 8-ball until it went oversized and straight to just graphic novel form. So you can just get David Boring, Ice Haven, and the Death Ray, and you don't need anything else aside from this. This collects in its entirety Ghost World, Dan Pussy, Like a Velvet Glove, Cast in Iron, Caricature, and so many other amazing works from Daniel Clowes. 8 Ball was an anthology comic throughout the 90s. I read issues of it here and there, but a lot of the works in here have been collected into some of the most best-selling graphic novels of all time. So you definitely want to check that up. So to recap, TMNT, Saturday Morning Adventures, perfect for fans of the Ninja Turtles cartoon from back in the day. Purple Oblivion, a psychedelic trip that I didn't quite get at the end, but I want to come back. Heart Eyes, issue number 3. Decent, but I felt a bit lost. End after end number 3, really coming together for me. Sweetie Candy Vigilante, a book that embraces what it is, which is just big dumb fun. Vampirella versus Red Sonja's, more so if you're keeping up with all the Project Superpower stuff involving them, because it doesn't feel like a good clean entry point. Then we got Cherish number 1, a cool introduction to an interesting new character. Bill and Ted's Death. That book was awesome. Station. Night of the Ghoul. Really like this one. Gets bogged down a bit by some overly exposition-y bits. Quick stops here to tickle that Kevin Smith nostalgia. Then we've got The Ones. Interesting enough, we'll see. King Spawn, really solid issue. Bloodstained Teeth, loving that series. Old Dog, better than issue number 1. So that was an improvement. That's good. Little Monsters brings in a new arc and new ideas. Then we've got Hell to Pay. Speaking of new ideas, a new Charles Soule book. I thought that was really good. Dark Knights of Steel. It's dope. Poison Ivy. Really solid ending. I'm excited to see where we go. New Champion of Shazam. Not as good as issue 1 and 2, but still solid enough. Only one more issue to go. Gotham City Year 1. A little bit of a step down from issue number 1, but still decent enough. Sword of Azrael. The best Azrael comic of all time. The Joker, really interesting, but too high of a price. Batman, y'all know Batman's freaking awesome. Mark Silvestri pumping out some of the best artwork of his career in the Batman-Joker Deadly Duo. Savage Avengers, $20.99 fans rejoice. The end of this one's going to have you flipping. Then we got Hulk, getting boring, getting dull. Punisher, getting better, more nuance. Doing stuff with the character. Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind, just a one-shot, kind of worthless. Secret Invasion, it's alright. Tiger Division, kind of skippable, free and forgettable. Deadpool, surprisingly engaging to me, but the pick of the week, Behold Behemoth, a really solid book with great artwork and a great emotional punch. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. What are you reading? What are you thinking? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcast blogs and merch and a whole lot more. Also, a big shout out to Nick Comic Culture, the 3rd best comic book reviewer on OnlyFans. Anyway, don't look for him on OnlyFans. I don't think he's there. Or is he? Anyway, I'm dipping out. Thank you all so much for rocking with us. Thanks for reading. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop, boom.